It's not, it's cannot connect to Zoom rooms, sign out, but I don't know the passcode to sign out. I can like record audio. Yes.
I need just a paper copy of the agenda.
Just the agenda or the whole pack?
I don't know, there's a pack, this is not planning.
No, that's
This, I'll take a one on the whole agenda.
the whole packet, everything,
Yes.
all papers. Okay.
Snow we got.
Yeah, that was timely.
It was.
It was getting kind of scary.
It's like last year, we got that 3.5 foot.
Yeah, that big dump. Yeah.
And this was about, I think about 2 feet, at least in my backyard. We have a big flower pot
Yeah,
out there, and it's like, it had a hat on it, like that.
yeah. Debbie measures, so she got 18 inches for
Yeah.
the yard.
It was wet, it was good.
It was very big.
I talked to Neil when he was doing the plowing, and he says this stuff is really wet.
So, it was down raining too.
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
if you don't.
So anyway,
This is, we'll work around it, but, I wanted the one with the notes on it that I marked up.
oh, you want, I can print those out real quick.
Okay.
so anyway, I had lunch with Jerry Seifert last week, and he puts up a lot of hay.
Yeah,
And he said he didn't even know on one ditch, Ulay ditch, there's nothing in it, no water in it, so he didn't know if he could get any water. Now this should help.
yeah,
It's
this
supposed to rain today too.
yeah, nothing substantial, I think, but, I walked the entire Rainbow Trail last year in 12 segments, and, there was so much water coming off that mountain. After that dump.
Yep. So. But it's the profession they choose. I'm concerned about the ranchers, of course, but I'm also concerned about that forest. And we had a meeting with the Forest Service, 2-3 years ago. And he says, this forest is a forest that wants to burn.
But the burn problem, strange fact, I'm chair of the county's community wildfire protection plan team right now. So I'm getting a lot of information. The burn probability is higher in the west because it's drier. And the problem here, this is primed to burn if it's dry, and it's steep.
Yeah.
So the fire's going to run all the way to timber, and maybe even greater concern is the flooding and reflow after the fire.
So I know you're blind, so I accidentally printed it on the 17.
Paul,
Hey,
no,
Bob.
no respect.
Yeah.
Hey Bob, how you doing? Josh?
Yeah,
Glasses.
now, the
No
thing about
glasses.
it is,
Good.
there can be mitigation done, but it's very steep. And the guy that told me, he's from the Forest Service, and he said. It's so dense in there that animals can't live. So deer and elk and small rat, whatever,
Yeah,
and there's no, there's no,
there's no safe zones. Yeah.
there's no foliage coming up, no plants, no
Yeah.
grasses. So there's no birds in there because there's no.
It
bugs.
should. Wait,
So.
Well, there's animals in there. When I walked it, we saw deer. And there's birds for sure.
Anyway,
there's,
when this burn happened down here. By the Rainbow Trail Lutheran Camp, is that up there?
The Ducky Creek Park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they,
nobody's sitting.
yeah, they,
There's Chris.
No more is.
it's all full of deer, elk, and it's all going up and going back.
Yeah.
We were still alive,
What's the difference?
what's his name?
This
Oh, I
was
see
his
it.
note, John.
So anyway, he says that the deer and the elk and the antelope.
Good morning.
Haven't seen you forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the wrong one.
Forever's a long time, and yeah, it's got one of my favorite t-shirts on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pack
Morning,
controller.
everybody, or whatever. Not anymore.
No, it's almost here, it's 11:59 and 10 seconds, you got. Wait for another 50 seconds. All right. Haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah.
How's my girl?
It's on a
Oh,
walk.
we gotta get together, you and I, before we talk.
Yeah. Well, we can talk for a moment after this, because
Just use the small right word.
I think we know what we want to do, so.
Yeah,
All right, good.
I don't. What if I join on here and like just,
But it's all tropical climate.
Yeah.
that was, it'll be something. Read AI meeting, no.
Yeah. She never contacted us, though. We had to go through hers all the way. This is fine. Yeah.
Planning commission, start.
Sure.
Come on, you want me to do your sales? Or do I need to get my commission? That'll get commission.
Well,
But yeah, so it was.
yeah, yeah, the only thing that you don't like is their data limit for their internet. So we're sticking with Starlink, because
So
there's no way we can live with that little.
I guess. But do you need more?
We're too, we're constantly.
One,
So
Right.
here's that. I don't. It's not.
What's this? And
Yeah,
one
one
wants the recording, we'll ask for it. Okay.
150 megabytes, and we're like. Or gigabytes, I'm sorry, more than
press code.
70 times.
Because. So.
Words.
Oh.
So what do you get on your Starlink?
Steve, I think.
Down.
We're very excited. Over 200, probably average. Well,
Yeah, we get about. Just the same, in the evening when people at home watch the TV, it goes down.
yeah,
Or football Saturday or Sunday, it goes down.
but it's still, even on a slow day, it's better than we were getting with any of the local
Oh, yeah.
services. We were lucky to get one with any of the local services when we were paying for 30.
Yeah.
Yes. So in that regard, no, like every once in a while, like it's down, but
Yeah.
that's usually like at 2 a.m. First I noticed it because I'm up,
Yeah.
but
So, yeah, and that whole project that I've been working on. The two towns in the county have been working on trying to get fiber optics up here. That's never gonna happen.
and it's kind of moved at this
Yeah.
point. You got Project Kuiper that's starting to get launched now. There's one web that got partially launched, they folded, but I think the UK rescued the company. So they'll be starting up again. I think there's even another one that people have been talking about too, so.
It's gonna be pretty crowded.
It is.
More orbit.
Yes. Yes. But. You know. We just have to depend on the space telescopes to see the stars.
That's right.
But we, I worked on a project, this is at least 20 years ago, called the Beanpole Project. And it was a state was putting it together and we were organized by the county, and so you go to these meetings, and by the time, I mean, it's a painfully slow process with any municipality or government, just painfully slow. But by the time we got even organized, the whole voice over internet thing had come into effect. Actually, the guy who developed lived here. And he was married to Sean Gady's wife, what's her name? Brenda. So they got divorced. But yeah, he lived here, and John Kerford built a house for him.
Huh.
And so anyway, he the voice over internet pro VoIP, yeah. And so it was like that. It was gone because it came over cable, came over big phone line. So,
Well, in some cases, it's really good when you haven't gotten around to actually spending money.
yeah.
It hurts when you spent a lot of money and all of a sudden, flat,
Uh,
you know, but yeah, the fiber optic and any other mode of high-speed internet up here, it's a dead dog. Right. First off, you're not gonna be able to do it for really probably cheaper than what Starlink is. I mean, Starlink's not cheap. But to bring that up here and distribute it, that's gotta be, for how much things cost anymore, you can't.
What was the name of the company? Can't remember what it was called. Hilltop. Now they sold out to somebody else. So he was here in this room, no, we're gonna do this, and that, and this, and he never did anything.
We have an issue. Zoom will not connect to either of our TVs, so I won't be able to show the packet.
So, can we print out the PowerPoint, like 2 slides per page for people?
Just the PowerPoint,
Just the PowerPoint,
I can print, yeah, I can totally do that.
okay.
Will that work?
I think because of the power outage on Saturday. Something needs to be rebooted. I'll call customer service tomorrow.
We had to resell our whole
Yeah,
Starlink.
that's the only thing I can think of. Cause last week we used this and it was totally fine, so.
Need some quarters? Have they updated the service provider here? This one, yeah.
So
So we have started out now.
going out in the building, no. But that's what I have at home.
For here, the T-Mobile should be good up here. They're not.
Not streaming TV shows and.
I called them and they said they don't have internet service in this area.
T-Mobile?
T-Mobile. I do it every day. I know, but you.
I just converted to them a month ago.
And how, through them or did you buy it? Right.
Through them.
Okay.
Does it work?
Yeah, it's fine. It works better than Verizon does. And we got, I mean, it probably wouldn't if we had a normal line, but our got mixed business and phone lines. We got business line is technically a hard line. Even though we use it as a hard line, but it forwards to both of our phones. And Verizon was set up like that too, but there's mine. I can't believe how many phone calls we get
Seen
the
that.
very next day.
I don't.
We never saw on Verizon, so Verizon was missing the shit.
Sixty-eight now.
Most of them are it's still.
Yeah, right.
That call Verizon now, we
Yeah.
that call
Yeah.
one or two
I've never gotten 600.
a week at first, probably one every 2 weeks. Now I'm getting calls every day.
Yeah,
And just by switching,
but
so.
I'm pretty close. I'm as close as possible.
What was the deal with Verizon? I mean, phone calls came through,
When
but
I use that house.
it's not nearly as many as we probably were getting. The, I don't see how that would have changed
with the Tron
coincidentally.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah, 629 on his download on T-Mobile. But again, they data cap you, so.
I would think for a town here,
I mean, we can, well, they've got a business internet and personal internet, and they don't have a business internet up here.
oh, okay, that's, shit, I thought she told me it did.
Yeah,
Anyway. Okay, so the business should be up, is. Right?
they wouldn't give me a number.
Cause again, Drew's used to switch tip over in Denver, it's playing. And he's. People, yeah, wanted doing stuff all day long. What do you get, Chris? You know, the-
Or
Yeah.
T-Mobile.
We're printing out the slides now,
Okay,
but you guys could start,
Yeah, it's gonna take a minute to.
you know.
so nobody can call in?
No, I'm gonna record it though, and anyone can ask for the recording.
Okay.
They, well, they can't,
they can come to the.
they can,
Well, exactly.
they can join from here, cause I mean, if they have that, they can still join, it just won't show up there.
Oh, so they can see,
Well, they'll be able to see my face.
well, they can see your face.
Well, I mean,
They
yeah.
can see your screen, right? That's what you meant to say.
yes,
Okay.
whatever, yeah, well, yes, exactly. That's what I meant to say.
Okay, just spit it out.
So I'm gonna do
So-
this.
Let's
And-
get start there and you're safe for this, I hope.
Yeah,
So
I've got a meeting at 3:30.
we have to leave.
At 2:45,
We've been limited.
yep.
So, this is a workshop, not voting on anything, we're just looking at a bunch of information, that I have gathered. Actually in preparation for probably this year's update to the master plan. One of the things, that we wanted to do was look at our map, our town map. And that might have got us into all kinds of other things.
Um,
740.
Oh, 740, oh, all right. Okay,
I can't share on my screen, so whatever, I can't, because I'm not the host. This is the host.
is anybody on?
No,
Okay. So we're safe.
yeah, I'm just gonna, yeah.
We got the planning commission and we got Randy
I think we're gonna, yeah,
and the clerks.
yeah, mhm.
Okay. So one of the things I looked at, because I'm just wired that way, is we're a statutory town. And the planning commission is part of those statutes. So I wanted to know how Colorado law described our duties. So there's a handout in your packet that goes through that and talks about the various duties, preparation and adoption of a master plan, zoning regulations and recommendations. And by the way, the town planning commission is often called the town planning and zoning commission. So zoning regulations and recommendations, that's one thing we're going to talk about here today. I didn't know about this one, subdivision regulations as well. Reviewing development proposals. I haven't done any of those for a while. conducting public hearings and getting community input. For the master plan, it probably would have been better if we'd had a public hearing and brought people in and said, this is a presentation of what's in there, not line by line, but in general, what was in there. Advising the governing body, which is trustees, so we can only advise and make recommendations. We don't decide anything. Long-range planning and studies, which is kind of part of the master plan. Enforcement amendments to the zoning codes and subdivision regulations. We've never even touched on that. And then some towns, and this becomes policy, not state law, have the planning commission also be the board of adjustments for variances and appeals. And I don't know if the trustees want to do that, that would take that off your shoulders and put it on ours to.
But that would still have to go to the trustees.
Everything has to be trustees.
Well, we do vote on things like that, or we don't vote, but we do
Recommend.
or have recommended circumstances like that, because when I came on my variance, I came to the planning commission first
Okay,
and then went to the board of trustees.
so that might be policy, or it might be the unwritten policy.
We have, or not when I was here, but we have behaved like that.
Okay. Good.
Why do I have this image?
Okay.
That's presentation of the status.
So the PowerPoint that I put together is many things. But when I started looking at the town map, what I discovered is one, it's kind of debate. Because a lot of what's on the map is just labeled PUD.
Right.
And so if you want to know what that is, then you've got to go in the vault and pull the drawings out for the PUD. And then go through 4 inches of file to check amendments to that, to figure out what's exactly there. And I'll pick up Shadow Ridge here for a moment to tell you what I went through just looking at all the documentation, the planned then development document that the town signed with the original developers that are long gone. But for example, in that the document references our use by right table by line. So it says, these lots are residential, single family, and line item 0.01. But what, as I dug into it a little bit further, does that mean it's frozen when that document was signed as to what our right by use table said in 2005, or does it mean 2025? And it turns out that is an issue. The document also says there will be no further subdivision of any lots.
What do you mean by that is an issue?
It's an issue in that our language for that has changed. Our language for in that table has changed. This is later, but back when that was signed, you could just build a single family building on that one. That was it. And we changed the language in 2017.
So you're saying it's an issue because
It's what rules is the issue. And I've had a couple of email conversations with Clay, and he had started this conversation, and this is probably a good thing for people to be looking at, because I've kind of marked up the town map. Giving kind of dates and the times of various PDUs. According to what the town has the authority to deem a PDU. And then say that, and then bring the zoning up to our current zoning regulations. But he says there's a process we have to go through. And I'm serious with him about what that process is, but right now, we've got, what Clay called a mess. We have different areas in our town that have different descriptions of what residential single family is. And so we need to clarify that and get everything on the same page. In other words, in accordance with our current Title 10 zoning regs. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, that I will be talking to Clay about the process and how to do that. And then we have these zoning change requests coming up in Shadow Ridge right now. Kind of brought that
I got,
up to the media.
I've got a question for you to probably bring up with Clay.
Yeah.
Is since these concerns have been neglected for so many years, have we set a precedence that effectively allows them to be what they are? Because that is a thing in our legal system, that if people use something a certain way for so long,
Right.
that expectation becomes the rule.
Becomes what it is. Yeah.
So if we want to do this, which I think is perfectly fair.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if we're taking care of the roads, we're doing all the town's part.
Yeah.
The town should be able to establish its rules. If we can't establish the rules the way the town works, I think we should force them to do the roads stuff.
But I'm glad you brought up the roads, because I couldn't find anything for Shadow Ridge where they dedicated the roads in the open space it was. But
I was on the board at that time, and we told them that they had to meet our spec for a road, then they could dedicate it to us, to the town. I don't know if they ever formally did that, but I do recall that as part of our discussion.
Who takes care of the roads?
We did.
Okay, so
if you
by de facto, we're doing it.
Yeah.
One way or another, or either it got established or.
And they complained to us. Neil can, attest to that. If it's not-
So anyway, I just want to put that on the table for now, so.
Well,
everybody's
why
aware.
would we want to change zoning?
But
Why would we want to change zoning?
we have a different description of what a R dash single family is now. That changed in 2017.
Well, wouldn't that apply to them?
That's the question.
The question is, do they-
Is what we signed, that it frees the definition of residential single family at 2005 statute.
What are their expectations, I guess is.
And so that's a
The
question.
question is,
Yeah.
what if they don't meet our standard?
The question is, what authority do we have according to the law? And I haven't got a definitive answer from Clay on it yet.
Well, my only point is rezoning an area.
It wouldn't actually be rezoning
It's the definition of.
because they've already said
Right,
that those
You're
lots
saying what a
are.
residential single family lot is. I don't know how, I don't recall, I was on the board in 17th and I don't recall. Even doing that, but maybe we did. Um. The question is, so what?
And that's a question for Clay.
Yeah, I mean, you can't force them to do something.
Yeah.
But they did it 2005 and now it's the bigger, smaller setbacks, whatever it is.
It's not that. I'll get into that a little bit later when I compare the three zones of multifamily, traditional neighborhood and residential single family.
I mean, just as a quick, it's basically saying the way the rest of the town is set up, you can put a duplex. Or something that's, they probably wouldn't like
I think you can put a duplex on a lot out there.
on the. Okay.
So according to our current, based on the change that was made in 2017, you can put a duplex on it. You can put two dwellings on a lot, two separate dwellings on a lot. Plus,
Assuming it's big enough.
and these are all way big enough.
Right.
And plus two ADUs, so you can essentially put four lots on a lot.
That's town rules though, not their rules. I mean, I guess the question is, how do we differ?
Grandfather
I mean-
clause,
What's that?
grandfather clause, whatever rule applied at the time of subdivision is what is encouraged.
Well,
That's not necessarily true, according to Clay. It is true. Yeah.
What's our objective?
just to clean up
Our objective
Yes.
is to be able to look at a town map and understand what's actually there. I think the other thing I discovered is there's lots of errors in that map. And by that I mean, it doesn't align with the county assessor's map.
And I think ultimately the goal is to have a nomenclature and an understanding or zoning that is internally consistent. Right now, we don't. It's just one person can claim they're one thing and another person, probably even a neighbor, can claim they're something else because we don't have anything truly defined. That's kind of what it comes down to. It's just a mess.
I think
We need to
that's-
clean it up.
I think that's well put.
I just see. Been at this a while. In this town, I see problem.
I agree, and that's why I brought up, have we set precedents by ignoring it for so long?
Do you
And
recall?
if we have, that basically means we're gonna have to zone every PUD that died as their own special zone.
We're gonna have to have multiple residential single family zones.
Right,
You actually chaired me. We've got the table to prove it. Anyway, and that gentleman, that deaf and dumb gentleman.
Right.
Wanted to build, because he said he had a lot. And allowed it. And I talked to Jerry Seifert about that. He says, I sold him that lot. We did at one time. But we changed it.
right.
So it couldn't be multifamily. And he said he got a plat from us. I said, well, we wouldn't keep the plat, it would be the county that would keep the plat. We'd have one here, but the official plat would be kept at the county, that's where those things are kept. And so he left, but we filled these two rooms with residents from Shadow Ridge. We were dead.
We all have PTSD from that door.
But I don't think in this case, though, we're not arguing a multifamily lot. It's the definitions of.
Oh, I'm not saying this, but I'm just saying that changes are gonna fill these rooms.
I agree, and I do think that we really need to consider what that neglect means. And we have to consider the possibility that we're gonna have an R10 zoning, and I'm exaggerating, but
Yes,
um, you know, it's. Cause I mean, I wouldn't quite go as far as calling it a grandfather clause. But
precedent.
just the fact that we set precedent by not doing anything. Um,
That's our mission is to clean it up so that, that's all part of the process.
Our mission is to be able to look at this map and tell what's there and know what's happening.
and be consistent, I mean, if that means.
I
we have
know.
multiple, residential zonings, at least we'll be consistent
Kim, one of
with
my
And
friends.
that's
said-
ourselves.
That's how something we can have it play.
Okay, so
I
the
just sent
question
a
then
group text.
becomes. Are we going, we did vote for the 717, this new.
Yeah.
Is that what, do we want to remain
That's
with?
it.
Well, let's talk about that. But it's a little bit further on in the conversation. This conversation is just about what we've got on this map, so people can see when these things were formed. And yeah, you know, one of the issues is PDU gets formed, right? And they start selling lots, and at that point, developers in control and CCNRs are enforced that he doesn't, or they don't see any buildings that are gonna cause people to run away and not want to buy a lot. So they have some control over what gets built, what it looks like. And then they get to a certain point, usually spelled out in the agreement, I think in Shadow Ridge is like. Once they no longer own 70% of the lots, then they're not in control. And then it's handed over, it could be handed over to a voluntary HOA. It could be handed over to a mandatory HOA or POA. The only exception here on our map is Mission Plaza. So Mission Plaza set up a mandatory POA. So they didn't hand off the roads or the open space to the town. They're still in control of everything. If you buy something there, you're gonna pay monthly dues for the snow plow and the maintenance of the open space. So they're still in control. They are enforcing CCNRs. They have strict design criteria for what can be built there. In all of the other PDUs, there was no provision for a mandatory HOA to take over and enforce those things. And in all of the other PDUs, there's no active voluntary HOA. So a voluntary HOA cannot enforce CCNRs unless you decide that you want to be a member of a voluntary HOA and pay dues, which doesn't make any sense. You know, people aren't really that interested in it. So now it's kind of, you know, the developers are on all of these PDUs, except for Mission Plaza. And so now when you look at our map, it just says it's a PDU. It doesn't tell you what the zoning is there. You can't really tell. So you haven't got it.
I just have a comment about Shadow Ridge. We do have a map that says what each lot is zoned as.
Yes, we do,
So,
but
but it's still labeled as a PUD and,
so you can't look at our town map and understand that,
right,
but you know, you
have to go-
you get the map out. I
and
think it has been updated, even for those,
We
what
don't-
used to be multifamily lots.
yeah,
And they probably just.
and we
weren't
don't have
selling-
it. Yeah, we,
They probably just weren't selling, still Seifert, and the other developer said it was changing to single family and happy we could sell it. So anyway, more work to be done with Clay, and another conversation about this. I just wanted everybody to know that this is in the works and something that we try to accomplish this year.
Are we thinking about requiring them to have an HOA?
No, absolutely not. No, we don't want any part of that. You see here in the marked up map, there's a dash line here, so a lot of the things that we're gonna talk about today are only in the Round Mountain Water and Sewer District service area. So anything below that, south of that, I haven't counted the lots, because there's no way to do anything with those lots. But I did want to talk about this Demise Conquistador subdivision that's way down on the south end of town and west of 69. That is, that's owned by a single owner. I think it was done sometime in the 1990s. It's got multiple lots that would have driveways coming on to Highway 69, where the speed limit is 55. It just, it just looks like a mistake to me. I think it's currently assessed at something like the whole thing, $17,000. Somebody who appears to be two brothers in San Diego, maybe they got it from their dad who did this subdivision.
That whole slice is,
Yeah. It's one owner.
I understand,
Yeah.
but that's a lot of land for $17,000.
Yeah, but you can't develop it and have water and have power and have sewer.
Randy, maybe you know, does it have water out there?
No.
Okay, first off, your Round Mountain service area line here is incorrect. Okay.
We have a, updated map in there, but it's a big. So that's kind of part of what we're talking about here too, is that maps is not correct.
This area down here. Okay. Well, this whole area here has those, is that other subdivision? Yes, it is not in the town, but it is in Round Mountains District.
Right.
You're serving,
Sorry,
you are serving them.
yes, we
Water and
service,
sewer.
we service them where the water comes off, it comes off the gallery well down here, I believe. Then the sewer line, everybody down here is on a grinder pump. And that literally pumps everything up to this way here. And I believe right up to here, this is the low pressure line. So, it's not a regular sewer line, comes up to here, and then I believe it's right here.
There's
It
a
runs,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There's a matter.
Yeah, and then that runs down into there, and then it runs over in this way. But yes, Round Mountain services here. Round Mountain also services this right here. There's water and sewer. There's also everything, some of these places here are on the same situation, grinder pumps, where it pumps up into one lot here, and then it pumps, I think, somewhere over into here and dumps into that sewer line.
So that
How would we draw that dashed line now?
I'm sorry.
How would we draw that dashed?
we
This
didn't
line.
put that pink area.
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna be more of a
It-
zigzag.
The more housing needs is gonna get water to here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Give it to all of-
we go all the way down to,
Yeah, there's hydrants down there.
yeah, there's hydrants and everything else, yeah.
So there's water there, but no sewer.
There's water there, but yes, there is sewer here. It's a grinder pump system.
Okay, I'm not,
So-
yes, in
Yeah,
the
and
county
this,
land. In the county owned line, but that subdivision,
right here.
Well,
Subdivision
basically,
here.
basically that means
This
there's
subdivision right here.
Over to it.
No, well,
are you?
that would be,
Does-
that, I
this
don't know
one look
anything
good?
about this. I don't know if you could run, grinder pumps over here. Yeah, I don't know how this would connect in. It'd probably have to come this way and then up to there, so, but. And then the water actually, we have the gallery well down here and it comes over. Pretty sure I believe it comes over somewhere like in here by Nordike's house. And then there's something right here, and that's a private line that goes all the way down to that RV park, water only.
Can I ask a question? Which way is our more housing needs grant going to bring the water to those
It's
lots?
gonna bring water, it's gonna terminate about right here.
Okay,
And
So it's gonna
sewer.
come down here,
And
and
sewer.
I've been talking about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, water and sewer.
that could, how hard would it be to connect from there to there? Right.
Well, if we have it to here, I mean, it would just be a matter of, for water and sewer, talk about $250 a foot.
Okay, you got a problem here, cause this is higher than this area down here. So now you got a problem with your sewer, water,
Yeah.
You have to push it.
yeah,
We
we
just
just uphill,
My idea is just pump it in the Great Creek.
I have,
right over where your property is.
how about it's your house?
My point with that is so much of that water and sewer is that. I can't imagine that CDOT would be comfortable. Having all those driveways coming.
Well, I was just thinking about that,
Where the
John.
speed limit is 55.
You're right, and the thing about it is, this property here could be configured so they could exit onto this property and then get out.
Well, but then you're talking about possibly people's private property in the county. I mean, we don't know what that is.
Well, you're right, we don't, but at the same time, it could go, there would have to be a negotiation with those property owners.
Right.
And
You have to get a right of way to cross their properties and connect on it.
I paid, John Comerford and I, and Art Nordyke paid to have that water come across their property. So we have water, we haven't hooked up to it yet, but we have water. This, you're going right down here.
Yep, right down that road there. Yep.
And you've got 70.
So what, Randy,
On your property here.
would it be possible to get your map to us? And then I can include it.
We've,
You've got a copy of the maps in there.
Can I get a copy of that then? Or-
I can't, yeah, it's huge, but yeah.
Do you have a digital version of it?
You're looking at the wrong person when you start
We
talking about.
think we do.
I'll look.
It doesn't make sense to redraw.
You
it.
can get with Dave or Peggy. over
Okay,
there
I can,
and
yeah,
Get something squared around.
digital map of,
So the speed limit changes to 40 there, and right before that entrance. It is 55, but it changes to 40 right after it, so right where they're putting that new propane tank. CDOT has policy that if it's gonna turn into a lot of driveways. They will reduce the speed. We as the town have to apply for a reduction due to housing in that area.
So I think the other point is. This is clearly in there. No improvements have been done. No roads have been put in. No one has bought any of these lots. In my mind, it should not be zoned residential single family. It's a bad location for that. So I think it should be rezoned.
It should be probably commercial.
Highway commercial probably. Or the town might even want to consider buying it, you know. These two owners in San Diego probably don't have much interest in this property at all.
$17,001.
Yeah, and
Well, that's the assessed valuation.
Yeah.
So it's probably worth 35.
But you've also been talking for years that you need a new shop too. You would purchase that property there, you could put a good sized shop down.
But we gotta get
Water.
power, we gotta get power, sewer, water there, so.
Power goes right along the road. The roads that are on that, I believe, have been cut in. One of them is used all the time to access the private community.
that's right, one of those
Yeah.
roads is in, but the cul-de-sac roads are not.
I believe they are soft cut, yes.
They're soft cut.
Yes, sir, just like the other subdivision
Okay,
up there on the end of the park, south end of town. They're soft cut. They're not maintained all the time and hard
they
cut.
may have some weeds growing.
They got a lot of weeds on them, and they
Okay.
don't have proper drainage, they don't have culverts and stuff,
Yeah.
just like that other subdivision.
But let me say something else too. I'm not here as a representative Round Mountain, okay? So you really need to clarify. And get with Dave on everything that we're here to discussing. Because I'm not here representing Round Mountain.
Well, that's one question I had is, I know that form. Gets, the sewage gets browned and it comes up to the the nearest manhole. Does Round Mountain have an easement, to run that line? When was that done?
That was done when I was not on the board. I don't know.
It's less than 10 years.
And
It
then,
was done, that was done, shoot, right after about 07. Because remember that they went ahead and cut all those roads in there and they were gonna do, septic tanks and wells and. No, you can't.
do they have septic tanks and then they're pumping out of the septic tank?
No, it comes out of a grinder pump from what I.
Big, like a big cistern, like a grinder pump in it, and then it pumps it up.
So, yeah.
So
it's
that-
a slurry.
Yeah. So it kind of begs the question, all those orphan lots that we've been talking about rezoning those. If they have grinder pumps?
Yeah, I can't think.
I don't know, you'd have to get with, I don't even know if that's in Round Mountains, water and sewer district. I don't know if that sliver is in.
Well, not Sliver, I'm talking about all those old Clifton Company lots just south of Herman Park.
I'm sorry, could they have grinder pumps?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something you'd have to talk to Dave on.
Okay, well, if the property south of them have grinder pumps, it seems like they could have grinder pumps too. But
Well, there's no dwellings there, John, so, but there is, what street is that? For you,
Fifth Street,
Fifth Street,
yeah, there's no dwellings there yet. Oh,
yeah, well, Fifth Street has some
But
dwellings.
that's the area we've been trying to get.
yes,
So what he's asking then is would that be an option for that area instead of? Well, maybe that is on the plans, maybe that is the way to do it.
Well, the other thing I want to bring up, we're talking about the town plat.
Yeah.
I've got a town plat dated 1888. Which is largely like the old town here. But the streets like Chicago and Hafford and so forth go all the way through. Second Street goes straight now.
Yep.
Third Street doesn't, it stops at the shop. But I think we ought to plot our lots like that. Because there's Powell, there's Edwards, there's Rosita, there's Chicago, and so forth. Well, those are up above, I'm sorry. We should plat those, put them on the plat, so, I mean, the Drews farm that land, but we should have an easement across that, but really, I would think. Since it was dated 1888,
I would think too, but that's
and I remember putting in, I think it was either Fourth or Fifth Street, Jerry Seifert put that in 20 years ago. We just, we wanted the road there and he put it in, so I remember that. So it was on that plat and it's on this one, but the point is, that's when it was, the whole town was platted in 18.
Right.
I've got that plat and I'm giving it to, I gave it to Kathy and she didn't want to do anything with it. And I took it over to JD and he said, well, we'd have to see if that's all intact. We did look it up and there hadn't been any changes. I think we exchanged some land with the Giroux to make a road wider. It wasn't interrupting. Yes,
That was done. That is. This property right here, turned out that the town only owned half of that road.
right.
So in order to correct that, you traded half of this road.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so
That's what I remember, but the rest of it is just intact. The rest of this is intact. It hasn't,
this here, I don't know
I
anything.
mean, the roads are platted to go across there. That's what I'm trying to say.
I wasn't here in 18 or
Well, I
1980.
don't think I was either.
Yeah,
although some people do claim you were here.
yeah.
So we
Well, I
can get that. in the
have a
house.
water line that's 1877.
So we're at this for almost an hour.
Yeah,
The chairman keeps getting interrupted.
yeah, but this is good. I think I made my point that there's a lot of issues with our town. that,
Have you figured out any that you wanna hand to me so I can start updating it?
well, I want to talk about that too. Just for a moment, so,
I want it all at
our,
once.
our town map is, it's a CAD file, right? The, county assessors map, which they have a full-time GIS, ArcGIS guy. To keep it up to date. It would make a lot of sense if we were all on the same platform. If the town map was just a layer on the county GIS map.
Well, I don't know, cause I'm not familiar with GIS systems.
Yeah.
But there's gotta be some sort of, exchange between them.
Well, the thing is,
Conversion.
we're.
The conversion, we had GIS subscription, but it ran out.
Okay, well, let me talk further here. So, it would make sense for us in the same way. They're kind of the last, they're the official, the county is the official site of, of basically lots and who owns them, et cetera, and they keep that up to date. We shouldn't have to we shouldn't have to do that in CAD just to try and catch up with it. I was at the last BOCC meeting and they're talking about reorganizing their IT department, pulling GIS out of the assessor, and having one person for the whole county. And I'm also working with OE, with the Office of Emergency Management about on fire maps as well, which is another GIS, additional layers on what they're doing. So I talked to Lucas and he said, it might make sense if the two towns shared this GIS position. And so that we could get automatic updates to us. And maybe if we're just paying for 5% of his time or her time. But because we would need a lot. It's the same thing with Round Mountain. So you were a layer on that system too, so we're not recreating maps and for all of the system. That's just for information right now. Obviously, we're not even close to that, but we did meet with Chris. He's willing to update this in CAD. It's a lot of work, but he's willing to put in that time. So right now, we're not sure what's what on the map. We need to resolve the subdivision and DUD issues and some other issues too. So,
Well, either way, I mean, we can get our map updated. We could push that
yes,
to GIS.
we could,
I mean, we still have to get things figured out
yes,
here and now, so. I mean, ideally, if I can get their information, pull it, I can update what information they have, so there's no conflict.
yes,
And then we can kind of exchange data back and forth to get their system up, and then, yes, if we can tie into theirs from then on, beautiful.
okay,
That would be the way to do it,
okay,
but, we have to know what we want to push up to them.
yeah, but after I met with you, I got into so many other things. I thought we can't hand it over to you. I don't know what lots are what and what the zoning is and what the new legend should look like. So that someone can look at that map and say,
Well,
That's a single family lot.
even right now, if that map update would be is, we don't know what this is, it's a mess.
Yeah.
I can put that in the map.
we can have a legend that says this hatch mark is the best.
Yes,
I want to move on. It's a little bit more time than I thought we we can spend on that, but, I think it's time to spend. So the second thing is, I was curious what, and I just looked at 25, we actually have good records of permits. In the town. So, this is a 25-year permit history for single family, commercial new construction. So these are just new starts, an actual new house. That you're looking at there, or new commercial. And, you can see that, I've got. That was the COVID bump in 2020. So, when you look at some of the, state monography office, data, we're gonna see that same one. And the population bump that we got, from COVID, petered out very quickly, like in 3 years. Any questions on that?
This C is commercial, right?
Yeah, so the orange is commercial and the blue is residential.
Trying to think of commercial, just what is the?
For instance, somebody built a new Ace, somebody built a bowling alley.
Oh, that's back in,
Yeah,
that's back, it's 23 and 22 and 21. And I'm just trying to think of the commercial buildings that went up.
9 Bassett, the realty office, right?
Real-
Realty office, the bank.
Thanks, been there for years.
Yeah, but it's on, it's,
Is it
They
changed?
permitted, groundwork, didn't they? Is that what that was before? If that was added?
Drive through.
Yeah. So it doesn't say what the permit is. it's just that it
Could
was
be just a
permitted.
building permit.
Actually, in our records, it says what it is,
Mhm.
which is, I was shocked that
Yeah.
we have such good records.
Well, building permits are permanent. We keep those permanently. I have back to 1800s.
Yeah, I could go back a lot
Yeah.
further, by the way,
Which one?
year to date,
My building.
year to date.
What's the address?
We have 2 residential home starts, and no commercial starts.
And this is in town,
This is in town, this is just in town.
yeah. Yes, being in this business. I just found out today, which is what we update every month about. We talk to our builders all the time. It helps us with planning, how much inventory, et cetera.
How do we talk to them, and do we get them all in the same room?
If we get them drunk, we do. No, we don't try, it's usually as they come in.
Okay,
And then here's the deal, they are building high-end homes. Because they need more money on high-end homes.
yes,
Nobody's building anything at $300,000 or lower.
Yeah.
Because why would I build this if I can build this, you know? And that's what's going on here. The high-end demand is still there. All our builders are slammed for 25.
they're working on the backlog.
Yeah,
Are we talking, then we got the Amish and Mennonites are building spec homes, which is down. And that's still 350 a square foot.
350 a square foot.
Yeah.
So they know what they're doing. These homes over here in Silvercliff,
Yes,
and there's a couple going up. Some are specs, some are not specs, but
those 3, just over the line at Silvercliff, are 2-bedroom, 2-bath.
Yeah.
So, 1 car garage. And they're, that's a market, that's.
sure,
for-
that's what
for
they're trying to.
for sure.
They were gonna be duplexes, and that's what Roberta Hay. I don't know how she's doing these days. Anyway, that was her goal,
Yeah,
you know,
they're not, yeah.
but that's what's going on in the construction. Because that's what the demand is, where the demand is. Now, if the high end drops out, they'll be looking at lower end, and when you're lower end, you don't put as expensive with, all the finishes, the finish drops too in terms of unit cost.
Hard to believe $50,000.
That's right.
$350 a square foot.
Square foot.
It's for actually builder finishes, it's not high-end finishes, you know. Once you start getting into the higher finishes, then what goes it for?
It's just absurd.
So let's move on. That's just information. Then I look, this is just PUDs and subdivisions. This is commercial lot inventory. How many lots do we have? Vacant lots, commercial vacant lots. And we got 26 of various sizes. And you can see they were plotted as far back as 1969 and recently in Shadow Ridge 2004. Very, very slow build out for a commercial. That's that's probably at our historical rate. That's like 30 years supply.
So Adam's filing one. Okay, I see. I had the number switched in my head. Got it. That makes sense.
Okay.
Well, I've got 30 commercial lots, 33.
Yeah, but see, I didn't include you, because you don't have sewer.
We don't have water and sewer, right?
Yeah, so,
Well, but the point is, if
yeah,
we get it, then
then you've got some more lots.
to have a bunch more.
Yeah,
But it's
Five
not
of them.
commercial, Paul.
I mean,
It's not partial.
so, this is just informational, it's trying to, where have we been? If we can't tell where we're going until we know where we've been and what we got on the ground. Next slide, looks at, single family residential. And so we've got 177 vacant lots. In the various, and I did include the Clifton Company 1880. They didn't include all the lots that they planted, just the ones that are currently zoned residential.
And that's Old Town,
That's basically old.
traditional.
Yeah, well, it's not traditional neighborhood. I didn't include that in that challenge. This is just everything that is zoned residential right now. For the old 25 by 125, most of them, Clifton Company flat.
So there's my question, John. So that's 21 is the 25 footers. Correct.
Yes, there's
So I need two in that.
well, it depends on how you read our current code.
Right.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
So we got a pretty healthy inventory. If I look at the 25-year history average, that's over 40 years of supply of
John,
single family.
did that include the lots adjacent to where the town-owned lots were?
No, I did not include those because
So those are-
water and sewer, so they could be added to that.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next one, which follows that. Single family residential headwinds, land building and top cap costs. Income from county jobs does not support ownership for homes on those lots. Very few jobs in even two of those jobs would support the ownership. Lack of construction and development capacity. I'm listening to a podcast about rural communities like us that are adjacent to premium outdoor recreation areas. And a lot of the same things for us. Short-term rentals basically eliminate the total number of homes available. Bigger factor for us, second homes, which is probably around 25% of our homes in town are second homes now. They bid up the price of real estate, and they take homes out the market for people actually in full time. And then the other thing is limited construction and development capacity. So if we're talking about, especially if we're talking about building a sixplex or an apartment building, we don't have those people. Those developers. If we're talking about an ADU, we don't have those people either. The people that are building custom homes and spec homes are really not interested in a 300 square foot ADU. So who do you call for that? I mean, we may have that as a policy now, but we don't have the infrastructure to take advantage of it.
And then at what point do we need to consider some kind of reversal? I'm talking about headwinds.
There's good reasons to think there's gonna be a reversal, maybe even as soon as this year. And I'll get to that too. So the next slide, and this is Paul's argument. We've really got a cash buyer's housing market. So it's second homeowners coming in paying cash, well, it's retirees coming in and with a boatload of equity and paying cash. And that's how the county's grown. That's how the town has grown here recently. I just put some numbers together, 1,500 square feet at 350 square foot. Lots in Shadow Ridge are going anywhere from about $40,000 to $100,000 just for the lot. Side improvements, curb cuts, etc., driveways. And the top costs are $28,500 right now, at least according to Brown Lab's website. So you're up to over $600,000 to build relative modest 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom home. And the income required for that is 6 figures. I came up with that 130 to 170K to qualify for a 20% down loan. So that's way above the capacity almost anybody, a working person in town or in the county. So it's what we're saying. We're saying retirees move in. We're seeing, at least in the county, median age 61 and change. So it kind of jives with that. I want to go over some numbers here. This is slide 9. So I was recently on a webinar with the veteran for a grant, and they had a speaker from the Colorado Department of Democracy Office, and then afterwards I started conversing with her because when I get on their website, in one place I see our population is going to decline here in Custer. And then I get another place on the website that says we're going to go up. So I asked her to clarify, and she sent me a bunch of information that I'm pretty sure is not on the website. This next slide, and here we see the COVID bump again. That year that we got a big bump in single family housing permits, and this takes us out to 2023. She sent me the latest data that she just got in March for 2024, and the population of the county grew by two people. And the natural increase was -6. So the natural increase for them is verse minus deaths. So not surprisingly, we're getting more people that are dying than are being born here.
That's what the natural
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
So that's the first graph of this
yeah.
section is the.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that COVID bump that you saw, we got a big spike in population that tapered off very quickly. In 4 years, it tapered off to nothing, basically. So they took that original estimate that said our population is gonna decline. And ran it through their algorithms. And you can see the bump starting at just after 2020. And then they kind of straight line out for a increase in population. Which is what a lot of people are looking for. But that bump was temporary, it's gone. So, and the next slide shows this is the natural growth. And shows going negative. And you can see this is, I think this is pretty accurate. This is just demographics. People get old, they die, and we don't have that many young people birthing babies. So, so we have negative natural growth going out, and it's growing. One of the reasons that we see it really diverge about 2023 or 2030. One of the things that's been driving our growth is the baby boom retirement. And the last baby boomer turned 65 in 2030. So that whole retirement boom from that bump in our national demographics that's been affecting everything since we were born. Is basically shifting now to Gen X, and Gen X is called the baby bust generation. So we're not. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for raising your hand and telling us how.
We're the best generation,
You're
so
the
we
bust
gotta.
generation. I didn't want to put it that way. But anyway, it makes sense with the natural growth and the end of that baby boom, retirement boom, that we might be seeing a decline in population, or at least not the same rate of growth. This is something else that demography office sent me, which is interesting, I think.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I've got this right here.
Yeah.
And then I've got this right, and this right here.
Yes,
So one is, they're in conflict with each other.
they're in conflict with each.
Seriously.
And the point I'm making is back in 2022, that's the one that showed us declining. And then they updated it in 2024 based on the COVID bump. And decided that we were going to grow, but the COVID bump petered out in 3 years. It just went to nothing. Are we back to the first one? And that's a question I left for the demographer.
Here's something that I know about. Some of the people that are building houses, they're tired of living on the Front Range. And they've got
I
stuff,
agree.
and they can work from home. And so they move down here.
Yeah.
So they're having families and so on and so forth. So I don't know if the demographer can really check any of that. When I moved here in '95, the population of the county was about 1,500.
Yeah.
Now it's close to 5,000.
Yes.
I read an article in 2000 in the Colorado Springs Gazette, and I have never been able to find that in their archives or anything, but they said it was, the millennium. They said every year for the next 20 years, Colorado will see a population growth of 200,000 people a year. Okay, and they said it'll be between Highway 24 east of the Springs. Bingo. It's all you can see is houses. It will be Colorado or Denver north toward Collins. That's happening. They said Pueblo toward Denver, sort of happening. There was 5 areas. The last one they said was the Wet Mountain Valley. That's what they said, because this is such a popular place, beautiful, small. People know each other and so on and so forth.
Close to the city.
And it's close to the city, and we've got healthcare, we've got a good school. A lot of military retirees here. The one thing I do know though is a lot of people are now having to lower the price of their houses that they're asking for to sell. And that's two reasons. One, they paid too much for the land and paid too much to have it built. You know, and now they can't sell it. And that's what's happening. So you see on the advertisements, you know, about $75,000 off, we voted that much. So we've got to work through that inventory that's out there, but I think that people want to buy. But until they come down off their prices, they're not gonna do it.
And not as many people are gonna wanna buy, because we don't have retirees, but I do agree. That we have, several that are, you know.
Yeah.
And we talked about this, and it's actually in the master plan, we actually. Yeah, put a thumb on the scale and go out and market. This location for remote workers. Because a lot of them are already making six figures, a lot of them are couples that each make six figures. And they can afford our real estate. So,
We have a problem, not just here, but countrywide, that if you don't have people entering the market. You have no future market.
yes, I totally agree with that, and that's. You may have noticed, I didn't tell you how many multifamily lots we have. We don't have any.
Don't have it.
We don't have any. We don't, and.
With water and sewer,
No,
without stipulation.
no, well, the only thing is the town property, we will zone to that, like, but, and I'll give them that one, move along, because, I'm gonna get in trouble with Melanie. And nobody wants that.
Oh, no, everybody's in trouble now.
That's,
So.
except Bob and Chris, they're nice.
This is something else that, this is kind of interesting, this is between 2010 and 2020. And this is slide 13 in your packet. But it shows that, you know, the people, this is net migration, this is the people moving into the county, migrating into the county. Which is how we grow. And it's driven by the 55 to age 55, age 69, age demographic. Another thing interesting is there's quite a few people leaving the county, age 75 to 79. And I think that's, you know.
Your days are numbered.
So
Your days are numbered.
In
I
fact,
quit right now.
fall is just about to fall off this graph on the right hand side. But it just says, we already know, the surprising to me is how many people are leaving over 75. Everybody knows someone,
So we have-
that's left because.
We have the high schoolers graduating, getting the hell out,
Yes,
and then when they start having kids, we get a little bit of a bump.
yes,
And then once their kids are of age, they leave too.
but you can see the pattern there.
They're totally.
That's not a new pattern either.
Well,
There's a pattern.
And then, negative factor, so, to Paul's question, I don't know what we're gonna call it, or whether we're gonna decline.
Well, it seems to be part of our problem here is the type of economy we have.
Yeah.
And that is it's tourist based or construction based. And if you have a skill like a plumber, builder, electrician, whatever, you're gonna do just fine. But if you don't, you're gonna be waiting tables or clerk or whatever. And
Did you just say
you
clerking?
can't- pardon me,
Did you just say clerking?
a clerk at a store,
Retail.
Yeah, okay.
is what
Just,
you
I
do.
just wanted.
you're gonna be just fine. You're gonna chew on that guy. Point is,
See, Paul, how easy it is to get in trouble with that.
so anyway, and my solution is raise price, raise wages. A couple bucks an hour.
That's still not gonna buy $500,000 house.
No, but it would put more money in people's pockets. I mean, the $2 raise is what, $4,000 a year?
But I think. As we get a little bit further down, we'll talk about. Other things we need to do, I mean, we need we need to work on workforce and more affordable housing, and everybody knows that, so. This kind of tees up some of the reasons, like, we have lots of single family lots. We have an oversupply of commercial lots.
But you still can't build up in the price range
Right.
that would draw the demographic we want.
Yes, unless we rezone them to multifamily.
Well, but multifamily. I guess I view that as only kind of a partial buy-in, not,
It's movement in the right direction. One of the low hanging fruit for us is ADUs in terms of, you know, infrastructure already there. You can build something small.
but ADUs are gonna be rentals, they're not gonna.
ADUs are gonna be rentals, but we need rentals.
I agree,
Yeah.
I agree, but that again, it's not buying in, that's.
It's not, it's, I'll get to volume. So this is just negative factors, net migration for 2024 was only 2. Home prices have increased 50 to 65% from 2020 to 2025. Baby boom retirement ends, and there's a good probability of recession in this year. Consumer confidence numbers are kind of at an all-time low right now. That means people are keeping their powder dry, and they're not spending. So it's not a good time to make a risky move and spend all you have. So to your question, you know, those two predictions for populations accounting are totally opposed to one another. Given all the things that are happening, you might come back to the original one that shows a decline, but you know what Yogi Berra said about that, right?
It's not over till the fat lady sings.
No, well, there's so many things he said. One of the things he said is predictions are hard, especially about the future. So all we can do is kind of look at these trends and say, you know, it's something we need to watch as a town. I looked at something here. This is a comparison. This is slide 16 of our single family residential, multifamily residential, and our traditional neighborhood zoning.
Pharisee Bro, Scott Goodmanson.
Excuse me, go ahead, please. Well, let's go ahead without your call.
Yeah, I don't forget.
Okay. So one thing just interesting about, I'm just gonna look at the minimum lot size for these 3 categories. They are all a multiple of the Clifton Company 25 by 125. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense that that's how we pick our minimum lot size. Especially outside of the Clifton area.
So you're saying original was 25 feet, and when we have it today is 50 feet.
What we're saying is you need 2 lots to build, but here's the rub. Let's start at the bottom. I'm looking at residential, single family. And it says up to 2 units, and if you throw in ADUs, it's 4 units. So you could build a 4-plex on that. It also says, if you look at the language, it doesn't have to be a duplex. You can put 2 separate buildings, and each of those could have an ADU. And then you could sell them. And each of those homes would have a 25-foot by 125-foot lot. So we're really saying that the minimum lot size
25.
is 25 by 125.
Except for you got 2 tap feet.
You've got 2 tap fees, yeah. But if I've only got 1 lot, I can't do that.
That's right.
if I've only got one lot size lot that's maybe 35 feet by 125, I can't do that.
Then we're also bumping up against our minimum square footage size. As well.
Well, our minimum square footage size, and that becomes an entry level home, is 550, right? So, and so that doesn't make any sense to me. That I have to actually. Why are you even doing that? You know, it just makes things possible, right? We have setbacks, we have a height limitation, we have an envelope, we say how many parking spaces you need. Leave it up to the creativity and the ingenuity of the contractor or developer to figure out what can go there. But we're saying something different. We're not voting on anything. I'm just putting this out here for consideration.
That would actually be fitting. The people in town who want a more traditional look.
Yeah.
Go back to the traditional original lot size.
Yes.
And we can have small things.
Yeah.
That would be act.
And it also plays to a more of an entry level house.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're building a 600 square foot house, you know, then we've got people in town that probably make enough, cover the nut on. And there are already lots in town that are only 25 feet wide that have houses on them. I can't scrape a house off and put another house on this because I need 2 lots, so I'm kind of stuck.
We have any vacant houses that that.
No, but there's, I don't think there's any vacant lots that are,
So all of our vacants are doubles.
I can't say that for sure. I just added up all the 25 by 125s and kind of looked around and figured out which ones were vacant. Then we've got traditional neighborhood. And it says, same thing, you need 2 lots for that. And it says 3 to a 6plex. Or it applies that it's a 3plex or a 6plex. I don't think we should be telling people what they can build on a property.
It's a private property.
Well, we're saying it's gotta be a 3plex or a 6plex. If somebody's got that property, two lots, let's just say 3 to 6 dwellings. And let them figure out how they're gonna do that. Again, we've got height limits and setbacks and they just work within that envelope. I looked at that, I think some would be really hard pressed to get 6 dwelling units in there. But then the next one really doesn't make any sense. So now we're doubling the lot size. It's 4 Clifton Company lots. And it says up to 6 units. Well, I just did a quick calculation. I could easily get 10 units. I could get 2 5plexes on that lot. So why are we limiting somebody to 6 units? Why are we saying that a lot that is half that size is 6 units and then double the size and say you can only have 6 units?
That doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
This is what we have today.
It's what we have. That's what's in the books today. And I think we should change the language there and say a minimum of 6 dwelling units, period. You figure out how many you can get.
So if somebody has a lot or 2 lots in a traditional neighborhood.
Yeah.
We're currently forcing them to build a minimum of the 3 units. Or they can have.
In a traditional neighborhood, there are no vacant lots of anything zoned traditional neighborhood. They all have buildings on.
Okay.
There's one right down the street from us,
Yeah.
on the west side.
That's a traditional neighborhood.
That's where we are, but traditionally.
I feel like
I don't
so.
know what we are. We
You're the
are,
dark orange.
yeah, we are residential.
You're residential.
Yeah, traditional neighborhood is green.
If this is, yeah, is
It's all
green.
Main Street.
So mostly it's on Main Street
Yeah.
and on Highway 69 coming into town.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay,
so what John is saying is probably correct then, that there's no empty lots that are traditional.
I couldn't find driving around Peninsula, everything's got something on it. Then you couldn't scrape it off, at least.
except for the right west, right next to the set.
So, but for traditional neighborhood, we shouldn't be implying that it's a 3-plex or a 4-plex or a 6-plex. We should just say,
Up to 6.
up to 6 lots. Yeah, you figure it out.
I agree, 'cause it's, if somebody wants. Somebody wants to put a large home on that space, I think that should be able to do that.
I don't think that's allowed in traditional neighborhood right now.
Well, I know, but that's what I'm saying, is to tell them that they have to build a 3-plex is. I don't know.
Well, we'd have to zone a multifamily first.
Well, it already is so partially multifamily. It says you can put a commercial building on it, but you can also put
So we're 6.
3 or 4 or 6-plex on it.
Right.
Oh, that's okay. I'm thinking, oh, sorry, it's,
Yeah. It's a
it's,
different,
it's a business district, okay.
Yeah.
Portland.
yeah. So,
Well, and people could build a business and live on, they could build apartments on top.
yes, exactly. And
Yeah,
again,
I was under the impression that a traditional neighborhood was more mixed throughout, that you could have single family homes and next door you have a business.
the way I read it, it didn't appear to be that.
Okay, fair enough.
And when we get to the point that we want to discuss this and actually vote on something to recommend to the trustees, then we'll dig a little bit deeper. But this is meant to be an overview, a big data dump of what I've found so far. The next slide is 17. This is I think a couple of things we have to keep in mind when we're thinking about zoning and setbacks is who's building homes in effect? And how do we fit those into our zoning? Because now we're talking about maybe 250 a square foot. Because it's built in a controlled environment and it's just cheaper. So this is a factory built 5-plex. Actually, you could buy any one of these units as a single home, but you know, this is just an example with 5 together. Their minimum width is 16 feet. So if we wanted to accommodate maybe the rest in our Clifton platted area where we've got 25-foot wide lots, we want to change the setback to 4.5 feet or 4 feet, so that you can pop one of those on, give that capability.
I was over at Fading West last year, might have changed. Their cost built.
Yeah.
On their property.
Yeah.
Is $151 a square foot.
That's awesome.
Now, then you gotta put it on truck and trailer,
And you've got to put a foundation.
power, water, sewer, et cetera, so it could be another $100 a square foot.
Yeah. Wow, it's quite a bit cheaper. They have a 600 square foot ADU option that meets our minimum size requirement for a starter home that you could then add on to.
And Bob has been down to Walsenburg.
Yeah, we hadn't been there, but we had the meeting with folks. There's a new,
Yes,
basically a new company down there. And they're shooting for like 120, but I think that's what their plan is.
So I don't know what our traditional neighborhood specifically says, but typically, according to the interwebs,
Yeah.
says that single family homes are typically allowed in a traditional neighborhood.
Okay,
But again, ours might preclude or exclude that.
I'll have to check that.
Um,
Good.
I just wanted to, I just wanted to throw this in, this is slide 18. And especially with rezoning coming up, as an issue, and Shadow Ridge. And so this is right out of our Title 10 language. Number one, these are the three reasons you can rezone something. The land was, to be rezoned, was zoned in error, presently zoned is inconsistent with the policies and goals of the town's master plan. So that this subdivision down here, I think you can make a case that, it's inconsistent with what we do right now. We wouldn't put a bunch of driveway cuts on Highway 16. Number two, the area for which the rezoning is requested has changed or is changed to such a degree that is in the public interest to encourage a redevelopment of the area or new approach to development. And then I've got, and then number three, the proposed rezoning is necessary to provide land for a community-related use, which is not anticipated at the time of the adoption of the town's master plan, and that such rezoning will be consistent with policies and goals of the master plan. So, and then I put a note that all of those things I highlighted, especially in 2 and 3, actually meet the criteria of a master plan that's looking to improve affordability in the town. So that's obviously a community need. We are unable to house our workforce. And we started to do some things about that. I think there's more that we can do, and more to talk about. But I just wanted to put that there because when we meet again, with the Shadow Mountain people and talk about rezoning, one of those properties especially, I think is, what's it called, Spot Zone,
So, yeah,
which we should talk about.
we would get our throats jumped down a heartbeat. We should try that, which is fair.
And the next slide is, this is 19. And we're gonna get done on time here. So this is 6 policies to consider to improve housing choice and affordability. This comes from Strong Towns. Strong Towns is a national organization that a nonprofit that deals in the area of one thing, affordability for affordable housing, and is trying to tackle that issue nationwide. A lot of towns and communities around the nation have adopted one or more of those things. We've adopted some of these things, but maybe more by accident than on purpose. So number one is allow single family home conversion to a duplex or a triplex by right. I think we already have that built into our zoning, that changed in 2017. I can have.
Do we have?
Well, it doesn't say anything about conversion, but it says that you can have 2 dwellings on that lot. So, so converting an existing home into a duplex. Some people believe
It's not precluded, but
it's not precluded, but it certainly seems like it's allowed by our language.
Well, what I'm visualizing is, especially in older big houses in cities,
Yeah,
you turn them into apartment
right,
buildings.
right.
Okay, because they can't, the single family
Yeah,
died or they can't afford to heat it anymore. So that's what this is. Right.
that's what that is referring to. Number 2, so I think, we can put a check mark by number 1. I think that's probably okay in the town of Westcliff right now. Number 2 is permit backyard cottages in all residential zones, that's our ADU code, so, we got a check mark by two. Legalized starter homes in all residential zones, our minimum size is 550, check mark. I think we've already done that. Do we have anybody that's willing to do that? Maybe a young couple could build it themselves or buy a unit from, someone like, Fade West and get it done.
One thing though, a starter home these days at the current prices.
Yeah.
Might actually be more like the size of an ADU.
Yeah, that's the point. So Fading West has a 600 square foot ADU. That's a one bedroom, one bath ADU.
I'm thinking more like 450.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that would not be our current code.
I understand that.
Yeah. Yeah, so. Which is something for further discussion. Number 4, is eliminate the minimum lot size requirements in existing neighborhoods. The reason there's a lot of, all around the country, there's a lot of odd sized lots that just happen time. And if a builder can figure out how to build a building on it that he thinks he can sell and meets all our other criteria, why not? At a minimum, I think we ought to consider a 25 by 125 lot is our minimum lot size. It is somebody.
Well, we said, the minimum was 5,000 and change, didn't we? Minimum lot.
The minimum lot size is 50 by 125. Or it works with that math. Okay. Yeah. But as we went through that discussion, we're already saying, I can have 2 lots, I can build 2 dwellings on it, I can sell each dwelling, and therefore I just sold a 25 by 125 lot with housing. I can do that. Yeah. But I have to have 2 lots to do that. I can't do it if I just have 1.
Right. We should seriously consider change.
Yeah.
So back up a little bit then, in the residential single family. How many of those lots do we have that are just standalone? The 25 by,
that would take some digging. I have to go through the assessment parcel map, kind of one by one. And like I said before, you also should be looking at, there was a time around the turn of the 19th century when people moved their Silver Cliff homes and plopped them down here in West Cliff. And those are on 25 by 125 lots. Some of those are ready to be scraped off, but I can't scrape them off because I need 2 lots to build anything. So I can't scrape it off and go something.
you have agreements with me that we should change that.
Okay. The number 5 is repeal parking mandates for housing. And it's actually being done in a lot of places around the country. I was hoping Jared would be here. You might have missed it. Jerry did a back of the envelope calculation, and he figured we had over 4,000 on-street parking spaces that we created at great expense. Maybe it's only 3,000. Don't be shaking your head yet. But there's a book out that's kind of changed the thinking about parking, and it was written by urban planning professor at UCLA. It's called The High Cost of Free Parking. We have paved and striped a lot of free parking in town, and we have overwide streets. Especially in the old Clifton subdivision, because they were based on the turning radius of a 4-horse Teamster wagon. And so we have all this off-street parking that we created at great expense. that we maintain at great expense, that we move snow off at great expense. So I think it's reasonable for us to think about maybe not eliminating, but changing their.
What if we did something more like half width of the lot or 2 parking spots in the back? The rest they could build to the 5 foot, or if they wanted to build all of it, 2 units worth need to be garage.
Well,
So there's still a parking, but you can have the structure there. If they could build above the garage.
I think that's the conversation we need to have, but the way our code reads right now, if I build a 6-bedroom house, I'm required to have 2 parking spaces on site. If I build a 300 square foot ADU, I'm required to have 2 more.
Right,
That just doesn't make sense, right?
but does that include, is that open parking or is that kind of garage?
It doesn't say covered, it just says a space. And
Space?
that
And a
can
minimum
be, and
square
that can
footage
be, that
space.
can be within the setback.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
But
just.
wait a minute, you're talking about 2 different things, where you're talking about streets we maintain and stripe and
Yeah,
plow. Those are streets,
yes,
and people should be allowed to park in the street.
Yeah.
Now, in dwellings, I park in the back in the alley. That's what Bob does. Most of the people on our street do that. I don't know what anybody else does. So you gotta park someplace.
you've got to park someplace.
Should you park on a town street?
It's allowed, isn't it?
It's allowed, that's right. But my point is,
Yeah.
you just said we have to stripe it and maintain it and so forth.
Yeah.
Our taxes are supposed to pay for it.
Do we stripe the residential neighborhoods?
We don't stripe. But what I'm saying, we're a town with a lot of on-street parking spaces. We may not want to go as far as eliminating parking requirements, but maybe for a 300 square foot ADU, we only say one spot. Or for an apartment building, 1.5 spaces per unit.
Okay, but that's on the property owner's property, not on county.
Yeah, but by policy, we're saying you have to have that many parking spaces.
I understand that, but the point is, they can't use the street in front of their property as part of those spaces.
No, they can't.
That's the,
That's the point. But we have a lot of room for street parking, is the point of making. That's another conversation, some of our.
They just can't count it into their calculations.
Yes, exactly. Part of the footage, right, yeah. So, and that's probably a pretty long conversation, but I wanted to put that in everybody's heads to start thinking about.
So, and that for me, I have an apartment that I'm renting out.
Yeah.
And technically, I should have 4 parking spots,
Yes,
2 for me and 2 for you, my renter. Right?
technically, yeah.
I could squeeze 3. Nothing too is back when these were done. Vehicles were bigger than, average vehicle size has gotten way smaller. Of course, and now, yeah.
Except for the trucks.
Yeah, that's
So and who drives what around here?
The truck.
Exactly.
I mean, even my Mustang is a bigger car than,
Yeah, I get it, but anyway,
cars have not gotten smaller. I mean, some of them have, but I bet in general they haven't.
okay, so the things are, times have changed. and-
But these are the things that are adding costs
Right,
to.
and restricting growth.
And restricting growth.
Growth for people that need.
And starts things we need to consider if we want to move in the direction of things being more affordable.
okay, one thing we have not talked about is property taxes. A long time ago, I wrote a paper on Cardian rec theory. Well, everybody knows that. Ricardo was an Italian economist.
Yeah, I do.
And,
That guy,
Yeah,
that takes you way back. That takes both of us way back.
50 years.
That's
at
old.
least. That's, I was in graduate school and I wrote it, so that dates me. Regardless. he argued that communities ought to tax the property into its highest and best use. Okay? So if you want to encourage the construction of multifamily housing, to lower the taxes on that. So that they're not paying so much in property taxes that they have to raise the rents, etc. If you want an area to be high-end homes, you raise the taxes, or business, or whatever you want to do. If you want more businesses, you lower the tax rate. For businesses of certain kinds. Maybe you want more manufacturing, light manufacturing or something, you lower it down so that people are encouraged to build there because of that. That's one way you can reduce costs, ongoing costs, and one way you can encourage people to build accordingly.
Do we have the authority to do that?
Well, that's gonna be a county thing, and it might even be a state thing, I don't know,
Okay,
but it would be worth pursuing.
because
You mentioned water taps, I brought this up to the meeting we had with them now. It's a $28,500 tap fee.
Right.
Well, if you want to encourage people to build, getting a lower tap fee would be part of it. Round Mountain is pretty much rigid on that. They're not gonna move. I know Randy wants to change it, but nobody else in Round Mountain. But anyway, so I suggested, and I don't know if this will work or not, I haven't written a letter yet, but I was gonna write a letter to Charles Vogt, who's the president or the chairman or what?
he's the chair.
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 Write it to Charles and suggest that they create a not-for-profit foundation. That the funds of which would go to water sewer infrastructure. And you could write a check for 28.5 to it and take it off your taxes.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And so that would be another incentive that we could encourage. It's a little outside the box, but what the hell?
That's good thinking, Ralph.
So you thank you, get that.
I didn't hear that at all.
No,
I mean, it's just a thought, you know.
Melanie, that was my.
well, it's,
That was your idea.
Right.
Yeah.
that's the kind of thinking, I mean, it doesn't have to come to pass,
Right,
but to think like that
right.
is the place to start.
It's what we need to start doing.
But the point is, Round Mountain doesn't lose.
Right.
And they get the money they want, and the buyer gets a discount, a significant discount.
Huge.
So
Yeah.
even if they're just in a 25% tax bracket, that's,
They started being used.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Well, it would be,
The other thing I want to bring up with property tax is. I'd really like to get the numbers on this, but we have a lot of people sitting on vacant property. That don't live in town, don't even live in Colorado, they're all over the country. And it didn't cost them hardly anything to just sit on that vacant lot. Because the taxes are so low.
so we should tax higher for vacant lots.
Yes, to encourage something actually getting done.
I'm one of those. I'm sitting
Yeah.
on 16 acres of land,
Yeah,
and they raised my taxes on it because it's agricultural land. But I'm not doing anything with it. I don't have any animals on it, nothing. So that's my taxes.
I know there's a woman in my neighborhood that owns 8 lots. Vacant lots, and she's just, didn't want, goes to block review. And yeah, and so, you know, she will move because the altitude, or she will pass away and that will change. But that's happening a lot. I'd really like to see numbers that say who really owns West Cliff and what states to me. It's not my name, just, you know.
Paul, you can't count all the feral cats as,
No. Or the deer.
Or the feral deer. Okay, we're gonna move along. Number 6, by the way, is streamline the approval process. I don't think that's an issue for us. It's not like we're inundated with permits. And people are not building because they can't get a permit approved. Um, But I want to talk a little bit about, accessory dwelling units, ADUs. The graphic there, this is slide 20. The graphic there is from a model ADU ordinance that's on the American Planning Association website. This ordinance or model policy was actually written by AARP, which is kind of interesting because they're seeing ADUs as important for their demographic. A lot of retired people are rich in housing and poor in cash flow. And so ADU could help their financial situation, or their sons and daughters want to build an ADU and put them in it so that they can retire in place there. And you can see all the various different kinds. Only one of those is detached, that people are calling DA or DADUs these days, but those are 6 different kinds of ADUs, all of which could happen here in Westcliff. But the language there that we currently have in our ADU code says accessory dwelling units may not be built until the primary residence business has a certificate of occupancy. Well, if the ADU is attached, that just doesn't make any sense at all. You've got to build the ADU at the same time as a residence. And if I'm building a new home and I want the option of building, I want an ADU, I want to build that first so I can move in and this
Traditional way of doing it.
and manage the construction of my new home. So I don't know why that language is there, but I think it needs to be changed.
I think the idea though would be to make sure that somebody doesn't build the ADU and the main building never gets built. So you have a stipulation that you have a certain time window that needs to be,
Yes,
or you're gonna be taxed as if that building was.
I think, but I read something, heard something not too long ago. He said, we create a lot of policy in our towns to try and rule out stupid. And oftentimes we really rule out the good at the same time. You could look at that policy and say, yeah, we're worried if someone's gonna build a 500-foot ADU and then it's only 10 years later before they get the house built.
That happens a lot in the county.
Why do we care?
Right.
Is that sounds like a taking to me. We're saying you can't do that.
I agree with that because tons like, and Old Domingo, lots of people built their garage and their apartment above the garage, lived in that while they built their main house. Some of them never built it.
And
They have to have a garage and an apartment.
I know one of those guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not voting on anything today. That's just something.
Let me ask you a question.
At another meeting, we have to come with a vote and language.
This idea I have about creating a not-for-profit foundation, whether to call it Round Mountain. If I write this letter, I'm gonna get Buck to participate too.
Yeah.
So Weston,
Yeah.
both says that. Do you think I should do it? Who's entitled to do it?
We can't
I like
vote
that
on it.
idea. I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea. Wish it was mine. But
A lot of things.
I don't think you need the planning commission's permission to
I
do
think
this.
Ronald Reagan had a thing on his desk. A lot of things will get done if you don't care who gets the credit.
Yeah, right. And maybe the Wet Mountain Valley Community Foundation is somehow folded into this as the vehicle for it. Oh,
She's on the
Bring it
board.
up.
yeah, she's on the board. Copy the letter to the board.
Well, I gotta go over and talk about. But, getting both communities involved in it. I don't know why it couldn't be done. I might call an attorney and ask him. I mean, if somebody donates something to the town, they would get a tax deduction.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, we would have to set up a foundation, but if, we could say, hey, that was a donation for Watertown. I don't know what the government would say, or some tax guy would say, or anything like that either, so.
Well, the thing is, I mean. You're right, the government might balk at that,
Yeah,
but the government has a stake in growth as well.
right,
So,
yes, they do.
um. I think that's a great idea, all that.
So,
Thank you.
yeah. All of us hate to say that, Paul. Feels right in my-
Well, it just,
Yeah.
it would be good for you to know that, not opposed to you and everything you come up with, just most of your ideas.
So this is the last slide. So we talked about fading west. There's another company in Woodburn that does factory built kits for ADUs. In fact, one of the latest, one they call a carriage house, it's a garage where they're doing it. And it comes panelized on a truck. You have to have a foundation ready for it, or a wooden floor even ready for it. Because that's not included.
So, okay.
And anyway, it's another way to, and they also have a program where they have certified contractors, like they have a certified contractor potentially here at West Cliff. Somebody who is more in the remodel business, that can handle something of this scale and size. That's just one example. There's tons of configurations that they offer out of the factory. They finance. Although a lot of ADUs are HELOCs, financial HELOC. And so I think this is another thing we need to understand where these lower cost factory built options are coming from. And Denver's not so far away that they couldn't ship it here. And something like that up in a few days if foundation's ready for it.
You've seen that just right across one, making it in Vegas. You've seen that.
Yes.
Boy, they're hollowing up and gooseneck. Pick up. And it's all laid down. Pop them up, but the roof on it.
What's it called?
Amazing. I can't remember the name of it right now.
It's boxable.
Awesome.
So the name of it is boxable. I called them. They do not have anything that meets our snow loads.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
So
But they have an agent in Rabel, Wyoming.
okay,
That's
So-
I looked to see if anybody.
you've got to put a shed roof on top of it to make it work with
Okay.
our snow loads.
There you go, okay.
I have talked to them for.
Is it possible to retrofit that?
I think it is. But they were actually they said they're working on a add-on kit, an option where you could do that.
And just so you know, I mean, it's all, they're showing building apartment buildings with them.
They are doing
all
that.
boxes, just bring it.
Because they're stacked, right?
So this kind of gets back into the. Conversation from long ago. But, and you brought up earlier today about this, Demense
Yeah,
Conquistador.
yeah,
About the potential of the town buying it.
yeah.
That would be a good area if we replatted it to where the driveways were manageable and whatnot. To be more of a tiny home. It's out of the way, it's not gonna affect property values of. The people who would be concerned with that.
Or
It would be down the road, probably 20 years before anything would get done with it.
Yeah.
But if we plan for it now, we're able to purchase it, say in 2 to 5 years or something like that. We could scope that growth in with that intent.
I think we could do that. We could do
$35,000 we bought it.
This was another one of Paul's ideas that's actually decent. The 3D printed home, you talk to that company, that might be choice, because, you know, you're talking about potentially
Right,
That's,
building a little village of 400 square feet.
well, yeah,
and those are homes that would give people the ability to buy in.
Yeah.
Where they wouldn't have had it in otherwise, which in 10 years from that point or whatever, they could buy up.
Yeah.
That keeps the market viable.
starter homes.
Starter homes.
Yeah.
We, when I worked at Buena Vista and looked at a printed home, and, can't remember the dimensions right now. It wasn't all that big, but they put the walls up, they had all the walls framed up, and the windows in a week.
This is a concrete,
Yeah, 3D printer.
print.
So we print, but they're expensive. Maybe he paid $1 million just for the machine that comes from Europe.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. I got it on my phone. He was gonna come back to us and Caleb and I went over to see him, see the project. And I was impressed, but it was high end. And because the development he was going in required that sort of high end, the, you know, window size and so on and so forth.
That's a technology that will probably be democratized pretty easily now.
Yeah, so,
Right.
oh, there are communities going up down in Florida and Georgia, Texas.
Yeah.
Of printed homes, they can do it quickly, cost is not an issue. And what for what we're trying to do, you know, it is an issue.
So it certainly makes sense when you've got multiple homes to be built at the same time.
Right. And the cool thing about those is they can change the design from one next door to another one, so they don't look like this monolithic.
Right, oh, yeah,
And the other thing, is acoustically, they're great, so if on the highway, they really block the
plus
bus.
they're very,
Energy efficient.
energy efficient.
Yeah.
We
So
have-
last thing, I want to make a comment on this last thing, because I can't leave the room without picking on Randy.
Aren't you glad you can?
Yeah, so, you know, I think one of the, it's the low hanging fruit, for the town, Dr. Lewis said, this, it's low hanging fruit for the county. To get more entry level units, rental units in. And if you look at the 6 options of what, ADU might be. The option that makes the most sense in our old Clifton Company residential area is a detached ADU. It's, you know, maybe in the back off the alley. But it's not feasible with Round Mountain's current policy.
But with his idea,
Well,
it becomes better.
it's
A lot better.
it's better, but the reality is, all over the country, all over the state. Nobody's having to favor an extra cap to put an ADU in the backyard. So I don't know where this policy came from, how long it's been in place, Randy. I know, and I'm really not picking on you there. It's just something that that maybe we have some leverage to change after we hand them a $10,000 check for the sludge, but it's important that we change that policy, especially for ADUs in our residential areas, so.
It's already in there.
This is probably the 6th time I put that bug in your ear, but we need to do it.
I think most of the ADUs already have water supply from the main tap. You don't need a second tap unless you want to bill it separate.
Well, if it's detached, then it requires a second tap. Your apartment is detached from your home, it doesn't have a second tap.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's,
now Dave Snyder's gonna be knocking on your door.
yeah, I think anything that
But
was,
your grandfather did, that's what I'm making.
yeah, and I've got the same thing. I've got a separate structure that is an apartment that we didn't have separate tap for yet.
Just tapped into the main.
But that was done a long time ago.
So So we've got this
So I have an
old policy
barn
and
built
around
in
now,
the spring. It's a little casino. It's got water and sewer, and I just tapped on the what I have in the house and the sewer, just boom, boom.
And just so your information, John, during that meeting, but that wasn't planning commission, was it, or the trustees when we talked about that, and I pulled it up on the computer
yeah,
of what like Moab is doing in different places. When you do that, even if it's a detached ADU, and you tap into the existing house, not into the sewer line, but existing house sewer, they had it like an $800 fee.
yeah,
That's all it was, that, and instead of a $30,000 fee.
right.
So which makes sense, because we're all perfect examples, I mean,
I mean, there's probably situations where that's not an option. Where they have to go to the street, or, you know, the mains to get. I don't know what that would be, but
Yeah.
I could see it as a possibility, but if it can be done on site.
Then that makes the detached ADU feasible,
right, after that,
even with that $800 fee.
exactly. In different towns, different other,
Yeah,
what works for Round Mountain. And so,
We have a product, people could use it for lots called New Durham. And someone like you, Chris, with your skills, you could, not for sure, but you could put it that. And you and Mark, you wouldn't take it either. And think about it is, it's got an R value of something like R value of 24. And you pour it with concrete, let's say it's a 6-inch wall. Concrete doesn't have R value, but once
it's
it's
like
hot,
the both
it
sides.
stays hot, yeah, so forth. And we built that building out there, it's 54 by 204. We put 20-foot walls. We put that up in a week.
Yeah, that went up really fast.
We put it up in a week. Now, we did the work, but you have people to do it. But an ADU, anybody with some skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, they want to do it, they could do it. They have to, it's easy to do, and especially if you figure out it's gonna be square. So there are corners, but there are no, bump outs or anything like
I
that.
was in Southern California for the holidays. And ADUs are just going crazy,
Santa Barbara,
So you go to an auto dealer, and on the lot is all these versions of ADUs. And you go pick out the one you want. You sign a contract, they finance it. They bring in a contractor to do the whole thing. And it's seamless. The other people that are doing a lot of ADUs in Southern California are the house flippers. So they'll flip a house, remodel it, bring it up to code and standard. And they'll add an ADU as an additional income source. So there's that infrastructure, contractor infrastructure to get it to happen. There's nobody to call. If I want to put an ADU in my backyard, it's on me. I can't get an electrician to return a phone call. So there's no way I'm gonna do this.
Is there permits required for ADU?
Yes,
For us.
for us, yes,
just like little houses.
yeah.
Well, building anything that's over 10 by 10 is that.
Right.
If you over 10 by 10, I think it's hard to bootleg something in, even to do a add-on or a garage conversion or any of those things. And a lot of the garages around here are detached, so you're into that same thing with Round Mountain.
What does it take to be certified to build one of these things, or, put together a kit?
They say a contractor's license, but we don't license contractors here.
Okay,
So I think we have people that would satisfy their needs.
an insurance policy.
Yeah, yes,
I mean, there are no technical certs that are needed though, right?
there are no technical certs. I mean, it's built in a factory with zip walls.
Right.
So,
So somebody that is basically not currently a contractor now could, in theory, change their model of whatever they're doing.
somebody that's
And we
maybe
could
doing
get-
decks or remodels or something that probably has the skill level to do this.
Right.
Yeah, Custer County, what you need to be a contractor is a pickup truck and a dog.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them around.
Yeah, so,
They're doing garages, add-ons on the
Yeah.
back porch. Sure. Front porches, roofs.
so
So
I think if we could get a list of those people and get them in a room and say, here's an opportunity for you guys.
You can make it easy for our existing citizens.
And get Studio Shed on a Zoom call to talk about what the requirements are,
right,
because I think it's an opportunity for.
I think
Garages.
looking at our traditional builders in town
Yeah.
is the wrong way to look.
Yes,
Looking at the handyman or, you know,
I totally agree.
or anybody that's open to an opportunity, really. Is what it's gonna come down
And
to.
I think this is something that the town needs to do. My guess is, you know, we look at the policy that came out in 2017 that allows a duplex and now a fourplex being used. I'm pretty sure nobody else. So if we get our regular buildings in, because there's some property here, and some property owners, you know, you could build basically a fourplex on a double lot. And that's a lot of rental income, you mentioned.
Have you at all looked about what the electrical and the plumbing requirements are? Is that part of the kit?
This comes pre-wired. So it comes pre-wired and then it's,
The plumbing would be in
and the
the,
plumbing would be in walls.
or the foundation.
Well, it's gotta be coming out of the foundation, so, let's say it's a 300 square foot, unit, and, you know, you could set it on, concrete piers. You could set it on helical steel piers, and build a wooden floor, you know,
And that fits within our code.
and all that's within our code. You know, we don't have to build a whole crawl space for that, because that gets really expensive.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, what, and then, so you've got that all built, then the pounds come. And you just set it on top of that rebuilt.
See,
Floor.
if we think about it the right way too, then that could also be opportunity for other services, like to try to draw plumbers and whatnot to the area, which would be in the family rear
There's,
ranges too.
you gotta do plumbers, you gotta have some kind of heating unit. There's probably a little
Right.
propane.
So we could, yeah, so then we can bring in, we could try to market or, you know. We're trying to market to that lower end, the starter home. But. The ancillary benefit would bring in more, like you said, the plumbers, electricians, you can't get to the club that. But if that opportunity exists, that opening exists here.
Yeah.
Those people can come.
And I think we have to now put that together and not just hope that somebody's gonna.
I agree.
It would seem to me that they put the, not the plumbing, but the wiring in,
Yeah.
and they would have insulation in also.
They probably stub some plumbing in, sure, that would just be ready to be stubbed.
But you wouldn't put the plumbing on an outside wall.
They do, well, you can if you're insulated properly.
You can, but.
I
You go to where the bathroom was or whatever. Or
True.
Kitchen, bathroom, could be that kind of,
Yeah.
you can stub it up through the foundation.
Haven't got the details. I'm pretty sure they do spray foam installation.
You're probably right, they probably centralize everything anyway, so where that's not an issue is. They just have to build to whatever the design is. But.
Are we done? Any more questions? We have until.
I've got the answers all over here. When I put this up.
Well,
You're on a good day. Paul.
This-
You're on a
When I
good
put
day.
that up,
this is surprisingly a good idea, science room today.
well, let's check this. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go over to, Buck and see if he wants to sign a letter with me about that. And, people immediately dismiss it, but they haven't thought it through.
Yeah.
It's a not-for-profit organization. Why don't you create a foundation within that, it should go to infrastructure, and round out. And send a check to that, and then you can deduct it.
And the Wet Mountain Valley Community Foundation is right in the process right now of looking for the next big thing. This could be fit into
I've
that.
had some input with Kathy on that. I suggested we do a museum community center. And I talked to Buck and I talked to Bill Kanda. I've not talked to any other commissioners. And I put it up in Silver Cliff where that old float mill is. Because somebody gave that, and so.
I didn't know they owned that,
Yeah.
so that it's
So
really
that
nice.
yeah, that'd be a great, I've gone through it. And
The old silver refining mill.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about? Yeah, I looked at when we were buying property, because I looked at that. Why?
but I went through it and he actually used there's a side building with a bunch of lathes and welders in there, and he would use that for his own personal projects. But how the float mill worked, they had a bunch of rock coming in a chute, and they would pulverize it like in the dust.
Yeah.
And they would float that on top of water. I think it was water. They had some chemicals in it, and they would put bubbles up.
Is that?
And whatever the ore was would be on the bubbles.
Yeah.
And they would scrape it off. Do you know about that yet?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a portable building.
Is
That
that what
building was not
is that
built.
what they call it, chloride?
No. Oh, that's before this. It's called a float mill. And they had an assay office in there and everything, and Jim would show me the whole thing. He's an interesting guy anyway, but anyway, he and Sturmer owned it. Okay, so I gave it to
Into the town.
the town.
So what's in the equipment and stuff that's in it?
It's still there.
Still there.
It's awesome. It's
I'd like to have some of those blacksmithing hammers that are there.
It's a new t-shirt.
So anyway, but that's what, I mean, they were thinking about something like that. You could get, we've got a giant history. We've got the conquistadors.
Yeah.
We've got the Ute Indians, the Southern Utes. We've got the miners. We've got
The Mexicans. We were part of Mexico for a while, and part of Texas.
yeah. It was, we got that, we got a lot of history here, miners and the ranchers and then us. But so you might get the Utes to put a big diorama in, you never know.
Yeah.
Recognizing that, so.
Yeah.
Well, if I own a piece of property in town, whether it be a small lot or a couple lots, and I already have a house there, I can't BDU and tap into the existing.
If it's separate, if it's separate structure,
Detached ADU, you need a new tap for 28.5.
if it's attached, you can't. So if you pop up,
It's ridiculous.
Or-
Wrote that law.
Hey, don't pick on ranch.
Is it Round Mountain law?
yeah, and that's exactly what we agree with you. It's like, geez.
It's hard to get recommended to.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a place that, for an example, that the house was so old and decrepit, falling apart, they tore it down. But before they tore it down, they had another place, another house put beside it. So where that house was tore down and demolished, they already had the sewer up and the water up, they just capped. So if I want to put a house back where the house was, should be able to just hook it
Yeah,
up
but
with
things,
that.
it's already there.
Hard to say, don't know. That's a.
Well, the thing is, It's already tapped into the main sewer line, so you go and do it without a mouth.
Well, the other house they built, they tapped into what was there, see,
Right.
so there's only one tap on the property, one water, one sewer tap.
So they tapped into the existing tap to that.
To put the other house on before the old one got tore down.
Okay, so if you built another structure there that was detached, Round Mountain's policy says you have to buy another tap.
But it's already tapped in.
Well, it's only tapped in for the new structure.
Well, the old structure was capped, is what he's saying.
It's still there.
Still there.
It's already tapped into the main sewer.
Yeah, what it,
I wouldn't tell him.
I.
Just build it and hook on.
Yeah, ask for forgiveness. Not pressure.
I think this meeting is still being recorded, so I'm not gonna speak to that.
But John,
But I think we're done. Thanks for listening and
thank you for
We got-
doing some planning and a planning commission meeting.
well, we got some work to do.
All right. You push the button. And then work that.
I move we adjourn.
Okay, second. We don't know. So.
I don't think we have to do that for worksheet, but
We're done.
we're done.
Okay.
Now.
So the ADUs can't be built. If they're separated, what you're saying.
If they're
In practicality, no, it's not gonna happen. Yeah. I mean, unless somebody's got money, then they got.
I mean, if you're building a
Yeah.
600 square foot.
We gotta get
ADU,
hold of
then,
Mount
you know, maybe you're gonna go and spend 20.
Says we need
out
to
in
get.
Shadow, if you're building a 300 square foot rental on a property you
It's gotta
got.
be
You're not gonna do
incorporation.
that.
That's a long time.
Where are we now with
Yeah.
Randy? Have we got a contract?
Let's go
Last
find
week.
out.
And it's all on Randy.
You gotta work on that.
Melanie,
I'm just saying.
it's actually, yeah.
Right.
Is that making sense? What agrees that making sense?
Well, I guess from our perspective, though, I mean, what is the real difference? The
Feel me.
quantitative difference between attaching it or having it not attached.
Well, they're.
You're still putting in the same square footage or whatever, you're still adding one or two more people. They're not gonna use more water if they're just magically detached.
So what happened here recently is, the new real estate building there, smart real estate office. They wanted to build a second building. And Round Mountain said, well, that's all well and good, but that will be 28,500. And so they just went through hoops and made them attached. And at much less than $28,500.
Like a hallway.
Like a hallway, covered hallway between the two, and it's like, what the hell?
We talk about the grandfather clause, there's a lot of lodges in town that are ADUs basically.
Or could be pretty cheap.
Cheap.
Well, they're there now, they're living in it.
Yeah, that's,
Yes, well, some of them have been converted.
yeah.
But if you came to us right now and said, I want a permit to convert our detached garage into a rental unit.
Which, one thing I don't really get is, why do they have any say over the permitting anyway? What is? They're not the town.
They are not the town, but it's within their purview. And I'm guessing somebody put that policy in place 30 years ago. Nobody living even understands why it's there. But there it sits and we gotta change it. So. Neil, get on it.
Take that law and just wipe it off the book.
Delete it.
Well, so I'll tell you what, okay, Melanie, get it.
Give me whatever changes you have and you wanna make that we can, and I'll start. Making those modifications,
Okay,
even if it's just simple stuff, just give me what you can, I'll put it in a layer, so if it's changes, you just. Keep that layer up.
I gave you the map files, right? remember I sent them because they wouldn't go on the thumb drive, I think. Okay, well, the link expires, so I'll just resend them, just look for the 2-week transfer files and you can download them, it's something also like when we get a little more settled that I would like to do, because I was working on the GIS software that Caleb did have. And it expired and it's interesting to me. So, and I not terrible with stuff like that.
See, lost.
Oh, I'll have to look. I wrote down some stuff to look at and I was, so we want to try to schedule a workshop with Play and have him attend. Otherwise, you're not gonna get answers to your questions.
Start, can we schedule conversation, you and I,
Hmm,
right?
okay, yeah, sure.
He now is obligated to respond in 1 more hours.
He's obligated, it doesn't mean he will, or it doesn't mean he has. But probably, we would probably have to do it after 5 o'clock because then he's the ADA now, which I'm fine with. So okay,
So,
I'll reach out to him.
So it's need quality time.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And yes, I will mark that one. Yeah,
And my guess is I think it hasn't done a lot to the map since I shared my version with him.
No, I asked him, where the most current version was, and that's what we're using. So that's,
and I'll go talk to my assessor
yeah,
because he can make the town like. And then we can get a map of the town according to what the assessor. It's not gonna tell us what the zone is, but it will tell us the individual lots. Because on this map,
And I would love to have, I would like to either, you're right, we should either integrate that. Us with them,
yeah,
which they may not be interested in doing, if they're not, then we should be able to pull from them.
Lucas is in. So,
But I want the Vermont water in our map,
yes.
yeah.
You want that as a
I
lot.
want all the service. Thing.
I put that in my notes to ask them for if the digital. If I can't, I'll look, but I'll just ask them, it'll probably be easier. Yeah,
There's big blocks of land there, even in the red area, the residential area, and the Clifton company. Plat. That are actually 8 lots, but they're just shown as 1 lot. So we can show how it actually is something. Already plowed.
and, okay, yeah. Just the documentation on that it was subdivided. How,
It was in 1880.
oh, with that, okay.
It's that.
Why would they make, okay, never mind. That doesn't make sense to me, but
Well, you basically just had Wild West until.
Yeah. right,
I mean. And that's PUD, that
that's,
when that got dropped, nobody picked it up. And
right, and now they. I have those notes that some of them. Expired or whatever, but the notes that Caleb has for Shadow Ridge is that. It will always be a PUD, that it will never automatically,
The language says in perpetuity.
yeah,
Play's gonna say
Clay didn't answer.
it's inactive. We can.
We can't, yeah, the town can rezone whatever it wants,
Yeah.
the board can say whatever it wants.
And that property down there, the one,
That little triangle,
can you? Put a file on that.
what do you think it's called?
I can, in my heart's map, I put.
Conquistador?
something,
Which.
Oh, yes, Denise Conquistador woman.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, cause that could be,
Dennis Nee.
that could be replatted where we could put driveways and, that little tiny slice, that could be more like a community space. Where you can have a drive up to it, or they don't have to worry about how small things.
It could be a garden community where you have to have a parking lot in front and you walk in the sidewalk and they're doing it. I had to pause.
Oh, thank you.
Do it.
Did.
Other than that,
Staff is.
No.
Yeah, okay.
right,
Yeah,
and I think, I still think tiny homes are
that's not out of the question. So it's with,
a starter. And yeah,
Well, my big-
there are a lot of ex-military that don't want to share a wall.
and the other thing is.
Yeah.
You're
I was in positive.
this landscape area,
I'm going to show up.
trees and.
No, you had straight speeding for that.
So she reserved it for the big chunks time.
Say, what's happening on the fifth that is such an emergency that we need here?
Is that Shadow Ridge?
The hearing? So that everybody has to be at the next,
At the next planning commission, yeah, it's
is that,
the hearing, it's a public hearing for the 2 lots in Shadow Ridge that want to be rezoned. If I don't have all 4 of you here, we won't have a 4th. Remember last time it got canceled, the public hearing was canceled because Paul couldn't get.
Okay.
So it would be canceled again and they'll,
is this back to the multifamily one?
no, it's lots 3 and 6 in Shadow Ridge that are highway commercial. And they want to go to single family. And one of them was contingent on people were trying to buy it. And it was contingent that it
But it-
get,
But
they
it fell
pulled-
through.
it fell through, but Deb Underwood still wants to pursue it.
Yeah.
So I changed that and the fee has already been paid. They can't get it back.
That's the one that really looks like spots over.
I,
It's surrounded by.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, personally, I just don't. They rolled the dice paying for it anyway. I'm
Yeah.
glad they got their money back, but
So it's really not much we can do.
I don't feel that I don't feel that it should be rezoned as it is now, because all of those little things are just all kinds of different stuff.
It's already got a commercial building next to it.
Yeah,
And,
the other one has like a house next across the street or something, but still,
well, that's residential across the street, and then the other property that wants to be rezoned, kind of makes sense.
but
Rezoned and split,
and split.
Yeah.
They have to do the rezoning before they can do the split, but
Yeah.
then we're combining these hearings. If you give Steve Cool his and not Deb Underwood, like. I don't,
yeah, the one is not surrounded by highway. debris.
Yeah,
But
but
still,
it's-
still according to the 3 points that were on your PowerPoint today,
Yeah,
doesn't sound like that one qualifies either.
right,
the only way it qualifies is if you make an argument that having more residential lots, having in, that inventory has an impact on.
but if that one gets rezoned, the ones next to it that are in the same situation would have to follow.
You'd have to do more than one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those people have, I mean, then you're rezoning people that haven't asked.
The next one, they're just sharing one property line, and it goes all the way to the highway.
Not side.
We have maps.
We have maps. So it's
Okay.
lots 3 and 6. So neither of them actually touch
The
the
next
highway. This one,
5, so 5,
Five.
6
5
is
and 1 do, but 6 and 3 don't.
good, but 6 the next adjacent lot goes to the highway, is what I'm
Yes,
saying.
but so does three. One, this is one, and this is three. So
Yes.
they both,
But it's got 3 adjacent lots that are, highway commercial. And 2 of them are being used and 1 is built on.
okay. But yeah, so five, okay, five. All of these are being used as residential, but then like
Yeah,
6 would be next to one that's still highway commercial,
yeah,
and then whatever else is going on out there.
yeah. So
And then like what's going on?
But I mean, they could argue,
6
this
is
is one of them here, 3.
Three and these two.
6.
Mhm.
Okay.
And
The only thing I could say is they could possibly argue that these were zoned in error,
yeah, but okay, then,
because that was on your list.
yes, Yeah.
yeah,
but
then
but
what is
but then the one next to it,
this one?
no, to the right.
4?
So that's got a huge building going up on it.
So, yeah,
That is
Two,
a commercial
three.
building.
5 and 6 are all zoned as highway commercial. 1 is something else.
Is it something else?
Let's go look at the map. The Shadow Ridge map. Wow.
See you tomorrow. I'm gonna check my stuff.
Check your stuff. What's that? Oh, yeah. Good. Family thing. Apple phone and things like phone. Apple and Samsung finally standardized their, when I was told, their charging cords. God, and every time they have a different model, new model of phone, which seems like, every year or different cords.
Yeah,
God,
well, it's just gonna be like the, everything used to be wires to connect to it, now it's all
yeah,
over the internet.
right, is that the
Sure,
truth?
one of these days, hopefully you'll come up here. You just turn your machine on and
Well, one of these days, man, it's gonna be embedded in this and we don't have to do anything.
yeah,
It's just, you think about it and it communicates.
yeah.
So you gotta be careful now, what were you thinking about me for?
Yeah.
All right. Man, Maddie,
sir. Appreciate everything. And we get her done, huh? Hopefully. 3 minute time.
Oh, I found the bullshit.
Do you work on all of this? Sure. Do you involve me in this? I know. I'm curious, like. who would know the name of this? And then we will see it go. It's there in the place. No. You. It's actually dirt. No. Okay, this first. No, that's all. Yeah. Yeah, it was a little bit, you can take that dirt. Yeah, it doesn't matter. A little bit, I don't know.
later. I'm off tomorrow, so I'll see you Monday-ish. Or Tuesday, I'm off Tuesday too, or Monday,
Fridays,
okay,
see you on Monday.
alright, cool, if you need anything between now and, well, between 4 and 5, let me know.
Okay.
Bye, Neil. Oh my god.